everyone, welcome to the online lessons, and I am Bahronova Makluba Ahmedovna, Senior Lecturer of English Language and Literature Department of Bukhara State Pedagogical Institute. So today we'll just discuss about the Victorian age, and we will discuss about historical outline of the period, Victorian romantic poetry and poets, talented novelists of the time and their literary activities. So today the keywords of our lecture will be Chartist writers, critical realism, women writers, British Empire, Queen Victoria, Edwardian period, and art for art's sake. So you may find the information are taken from these books, from these sources, and you may just get the additional information from these books. So the Victorian age. As we know that there were 8 periods in English literature, and so if we count from the beginning, it's Anglo-Saxon period, Middle English period, Renaissance period, then Enlightenment period, Romanticism period, and after Romanticism is Victorian age. Victorian age in English literature refers to the period of Queen Victoria's reign from 1837 to 1901. It was a time of significant social, political, scientific, and technological changes in Great Britain, and these transformations were reflected in the literature of the period, as literature is a mirror of society. So the main events of the period is, as we know at that time, so British Empire was included. British Empire included the countries like India, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and some countries of Africa, so Pakistan, and many smaller countries in Asia and Caribbean. And that's why just even the British Empire, Great Britain, witnessed sharp contradictions because of even the external society was very just powerful, but internal life was not good. It was difficult for ordinary people just to live and to work in the difficult conditions. So that's why there were People's Charter, the people's workers of the plants and factories, they gathered and they have written the rights of the in order to improve the condition or working condition, and they signed in, and it was called like People's Charter, which was signed in 1833. So that's why at that time there were the members of Chartist movement, writers who wrote songs, poems, and novels about Chartist workers, and they have written like him. So at that time, major genres of literature were the novel. So, and the novel was the dominant literary form of the age of Victorian, because we can see there are different types of novels. So, and poetry. So, poetry was still very important, often reflective and philosophical. So, drama. As we know, drama was was in its highest point in Renaissance period, and after Renaissance it just lost its importance, but in Victorian era drama was less dominant than earlier eras, but so just in the late in the period there were some writers who wrote drama too. And essays and criticism. A lot of intellectual engagements with society and culture, and it was critical realism. So if we talk about the key authors and works, so novelists were Charles Dickens, Charlotte Bronte, Emily Bronte, George Eliot, Thomas Hardy, so women writers and as well as other writers too, who just explored poverty, child labor, injustice, about psychological writings, and so on. So these writers used the novel as a tool to protest against the evils and contemporary social and economic life and to picture the world in a realistic way. They expressed deep sympathy for the working people, described the unbearable conditions of their life and work. Criticism in their work was very strong, so some scholars called them critical realists, and the trend to which they belonged, critical realism. So Hard Times by Charles Dickens and Mary Barton by Elizabeth Gaskell are the bright examples of that literature, in which the Chartist movement is described. The contribution of the writers belonging to the trend of realism in world literature is enormous. They created a broad picture of social life, exposed and attacked the vices of contemporary society, sided with the common people in their passionate protest against unbearable exploitation, and expressed their hopes for a better future. At that time, as we said before, so poetry was also just one of the dominant genre in literature. So there were some poets who just kept the romantic features of writing poetry, poems. So they are Alfred Lord Tennyson, and he's famous for his In Memoriam and The Charge of the Light Brigade. Robert Browning, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Matthew Arnold. So unlike the poetry of Romantic age, their poetry demonstrated the conservatism, optimism, and self-assurance that marked the poetry of the Victorian age. And the other poems like the Ernest Jones, The Song of the Lower Classes, Thomas Hood, The Song of the Ship, they were like used as a hymn for Chartist movement. And the writers were Oscar Wilde, and he's famous for his picture of Dorian Gray, not only in British literature but in the world literature. And he's also known for his witty plays like The Importance of Being Earnest. So, and from British literature, like children's literature was just developed too. So we can exemplify here Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Robert Louis Stevenson. So the themes which were just common in the novels of that period, that just they were industrialization and their discontents, class conflict, gender roles and the status of women, the conflict between science and religion, especially after Darwin, and the individual's place in society, colonialism, and empire. So most novels were just in these themes. So the triumph of the novel, how novels just developed during Victorian era, and we know that before this era, in the previous eras, there were just realistic novels in Enlightenment period, and then historical novels in Romanticism. But when it comes to Victorian era, we can see the development of novels and other types of novels. There are some features, or there are some reasons for that. They are, first one, rise of the middle class. The Industrial Revolution created large literate middle class, and novels often serialized in magazines were affordable and accessible. So after creation of the printing press and the periodicals, there were just magazines and newspapers where just writers could publish their works, and it was just easy for readers to read them. And before the characters were, for example, kings and queens, like in the Renaissance period, but in the Victorian era, the characters of the novels were middle class. So middle class readers loved stories that reflected their values, struggles, and ambitions. So second reason is serialization of novels. Most Victorian novels were published in parts, either weekly or monthly in periodicals. This made them cheaper and kept readers hooked like modern day TV series. Authors like Charles Dickens mastered this form. Readers eagerly waited each installment. The third reason of why novels were such popular is moral and social concerns. Novels became a platform to explore serious issues like poverty and class inequality. We can see it in Oliver Twist, or gender roles and women rights. We can see mostly in the works of women writers like Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronte, so Bronte sisters, industrialization and rural decline. So readers valued literature that taught lessons or encouraged moral reflection. So the fourth reason is character development. Victorian novelists focused on deep psychological portraits. Readers connected with complex characters like Pip, Jane Eyre, or Dorothy Brooke. This emotional connection made the novel more engaging than poetry or drama for many. The next reason, expansive plots and realism. Novels offer detailed depictions of everyday life and society. Writers used multiple subplots, wide casts of characters, and rich settings. Realistic novels resonated in a rapidly changing world. In modern storytelling also just was reason for the development of the novel too. And major novelists who led the triumph, they are Charles Dickens, and we can see in his works like combined humor, vivid characters, and social criticism. George Eliot, she brought intellectual depth and realism. Thomas Hardy examined faith and social constraints with tragic intensity, and Bronte sisters, of course. So if we talk about the poetry of that period, we can see just Alfred Lord Tennyson, and he's famous for his poems, chiefly lyrical poems in memoriam H.H., the Idols of the King. So Robert Browning, he is also just famous for his Stratford and Sardello. So Charles Dickens, he is worldwide famous writer, novelist of the Victorian period, and he is famous for the nickname of Boss, which is just used in his childhood, and his creative work has been divided into 4 periods. So the works written between the years 1833 and 1841 belong to the first period. They are sketches by Boss, the posthumous papers of the Pickwick Club, Oliver Twist, Nicholas Nickleby, Barnaby Rudge, The Old Curiosity Shop. Dickens' heroes and heroines of the first period are remarkable for their fortitude. They never hesitate to take the wisest way and remain true to the principles of honor. They prefer to live in poverty and work hard. Finally, virtue conquers evil. Humor and optimism are characteristics of the first period in Dickens' writings. So the following books written between 1842 and 1848 belong to the second period of the writer's creative work, and in these works' second period, Dickens begins to describe the crimes that arise from the existing system itself. They are American Notes, Martin Chuzzlewit, The Christmas Books, and Dombey and Son. During the third period, he wrote David Copperfield, Bleak House, Hard Times, Little Dorrit, A Tale of Two Cities. These novels are strong for the social criticism expressed in them. Dickens describes in detail the social institutions of the day and draws a vivid picture of the English people's life. In the last period, he wrote only 2 novels, Great Expectations and Our Mutual Friend. These works were written in a spirit of disillusionment. Now he feels that a better future is too far off, and he only allows himself as a writer to dream of that future. His heroes show the moral strength and patience of the common people. So next famous writer of that period is William Makepeace Thackeray, and so he's famous for his just the Book of Snobs and Vanity Fair. So in his Vanity Fair, which showed him at his best in a clear-sighted realism. So, and here we can see the other novels written by him. So, if we talk about Vanity Fair, a novel without a hero, the subtitle of the book shows the author's intention not to describe separate individuals but the society as a whole. The author believed that most people are a mixture of good and evil, and of the heroic and ridiculous. He knew that a human being is complex and avoided oversimplifying it. So, Thackeray's opinion, there can be no hero in a society where just the cult of money rules the world. Charlotte Bronte. So, Charlotte Bronte is famous with masculine pen names Career Ellis and Acton Bell. The sisters published a joint volume of poems. Soon after, all three sisters published their first novels. So we can see here like Emily Bronte is the author of The Wuthering Heights. Anna Bronte, she wrote two novels, and Charlotte Bronte, which is famous for her novel Jane Eyre. So besides Charlotte Bronte wrote three other novels. They are Professor, Shirley, and Villette. So next women writer is George Eliot. George Eliot is the pen name of Mary Ann Evans. So her first novel, Adam Beat, published in 1859, is a tragic love story. Her novels, works like The Mill on the Floors or Silas Mariner are set against country background. So why these women writers used male pen names? Because at that time, so publishing under the female pen name or female names were banned. That's why these talented women writers were just used this kind of male pen names. So, and from children's literature, we can give example like Robert Louis Stevenson, and with his just works like Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or Treasure Island. So, we talked about Oscar Wilde, and so another genre is like play or drama, and George Bernard Shaw, he is important plays were Widow's Houses, Candida, Caesar and Cleopatra, Man and Superman, and Pygmalion, and other just plays. In this and other plays, Bernard Shaw criticized the vices of the existing society. So now today's lesson is over, and I think you understand about Victorian era, the why novels were just developed by writers, the reasons for that. If you have any questions, you can just ask in the comments. Thank you for your attention. The lesson is over. Goodbye.